근데 아니 다바지 녜샤디 그런 참아 순사위도 상녜샤디 바지 아니 거딘지에 된 도지시 슈가 되지 임바자.
The way I feel right now is that all of the other speakers have said exactly what I wanted to say. And it seems that the only thing left for me to say is to thank you all for your kindness.
지전에 나란단 대회 스토리는 주제 안에 거딘지에 된 소화된 dengu 유서.
That's all. But maybe in the spirit of appreciating the kindness of you all, I could share with you a little story about myself.
나한테서 상물로 랭게 상물도 민자외 에네 구유제 나로래야 상로 충분히 차디야. 나 중도 에네 바지 나 깨바네 정신기 니주 상물로 지금 오만에 저리 체차오르지. 나 통도스. 에네 딜레 뉴상아 중도 에네 셈 나로래야 템퍼지리아 我从对呢，多罗马都可以对不起，那整个都是上面这搞出来，这搞出来，这咋出的资料去，整个都是。
That's all. From the time I was very young onward, I was given a lot of different responsibilities. And it always seemed to me when I was young that everything was laid out before me. All of the plans for me were already made. I was given the clothes that I needed to wear and told where I needed to be, given these very precious and holy-looking robes to wear, with the understanding that it was something sacred or important.
Searching group, Karmapa, Zenge, there's a group celebrity. Who's the legend? Niente pace abada amukusu kesheibda chene and yoran kamabres and lapsa be kombali andros dide mi mawje ngale ya geje tini yonde do gabdi du sana ne yoran ya chowa kante chos kante ruchi kamabres du sana kante chowa chos and me so chowa skemi do kamabres du sana ji chena ji zema za mangu yeba.
But before that kind of formal lifestyle happened for me, I was living in eastern Tibet with my family, and when I was 7 years old, all of a sudden, a search party arrived at my home. They were looking for the next Karmapa, and I noticed they were talking to my mom and dad, and the news came to me that they were telling me that I was the Karmapa. And these days, people ask me a lot, how did that feel? How did that feel when they came and whisked you away and your lifestyle completely changed? And what I mostly say is that at that time, it was a pretty interesting idea to me. I thought that things would be pretty fun and there would be more things to play with.
You mean this is the one I channel the child matters. That come up a child do sign, legally, culturally, socially, per you, the cartage and a palmata cartage. And a Azangita traditional Kasrata, Lusu, Sugun guitar, Lusu Tambuye debe, Gombe Nano, Dixuchi Nanoria, Deche, Azangata, Chokbui, Midambu, and City, Chokbui, and Turemia, Takanda, Pigay Kasrata. Statue Nancy, and as we beg, get out of a statue Nancy Deores. This got the Kundan Nancy, but Deores or Cheza. That is to do Sane, Semlia, and the Gamabas to Sane, Jing Guru Bachetan, and Danasi Gamabachade, Lela Mimbichi, Susu Pamatakate, Danasi Manguchi, Letongo of the Sensus.
But it didn't turn out to be so fun and entertaining as I thought it would have been. I was placed in a pretty strictly controlled environment, and immediately a lot of different responsibilities in terms of my education and so forth were heaped upon me. I was separated largely from my family, including my mother and father. I didn't have many personal friends to spend time with, but I was expected to perform these prescribed duties. So it turned out that my fantasy about an entertaining life of being the Karmapa wasn't going to come true. It more felt to be the case to me that I was being treated like a statue, and I was to sit in one place like a statue would.
Okay. 다 임비네야. 가서에 지 밤에 자와당 다나시 생기 자와디 델레 카체웨 삼바르스케 용문도스. Even 베니스 and 로치시 순백거리아 and 베니스 페브레 주사나네 수수 파마도 bü지에다 안다나시 다 저보다 보유의 상물로 예 장정불이야 사실 표현을 등등이네 고주다 자와의 바당 에너지 고주 가수다 거딩기 지도의 섬리아 유버치 초도스.
Nevertheless, I felt that even though I've been separated from my loved ones, and of course now I'm even further away. When I was 14, I escaped from Tibet and became even further removed from my mother and father, my relatives, my friends, and my homeland. But nevertheless, there's no real sense of separation for me in my heart in terms of the love that I feel for these people. I feel still a very strong connection of love for all of these people and for the land.
삼성에 아말라리아 가왔던요. 가왔던 주사네. 근데 가봤던 신비기 때문에 second 리리아 수수디 자와촌 가수 제외 뉴버디 다른 분을 줄리게 여버집지다. 근데 가수 등동이네. 셈리아
And I still do get to keep in touch with my mother and father, albeit infrequently. I talk to my mother once in a blue moon on the telephone. And my experience is that when I'm talking to her, with every second that passes during our conversation, the feeling of love that binds us is bringing us closer and closer together.
드링에 대해 가르쳐 섬르스나 땅앙 소아르스랭에 다 다데진 좀불린디 아니 뇌베 야게 시랑 주요하래 아니 다나신 좀불린디 아주 핀주 벤다 테드는 시체네 핀주 미망고지 내야 도제는 가르쳐 돈좀 채하다 안 적봉 것이 자 고급 망도망도 주요하래 아시다가 예스 이비냐 아주기 에너지 치기 넘교르당 치기 야게 점메바 아주 도난 채과지 섬리야 마제부 채과데 가르스나 지기데 예섬리야 아주 낭심기 에는 제바당 라버도 아주 베네트 the design of 치야비비네 아주 셈기 디자인이야 도난 채과야 다나신 베나지 테크놀로지를 지비나 샘기 테크놀로지들이야 도난치고야 돼 시작해 주면 송도.
So those were just a few remarks about my personal background. And in terms of other things that I wanted to share with you in terms of ideas, I think it's wonderful to have a situation like this where so many people from different backgrounds and places can come together, exchange their ideas, and form relationships of friendship with each other. And I think that's symbolic of what we're seeing in the world in general, that the world is becoming smaller and smaller, and that all of the peoples in the world are enjoying more opportunities for connection. That's wonderful, but we should also remember that we should have a similar process happening on the inside. Along with outward development and increase of opportunity, there should be inward development and deepening of our heart connections as well as our outward connections. So we spoke and we heard some about design this week. I think that it's important for us to remember that we need to keep pushing forward on the endeavor of the design of the heart. We heard a lot about technology this week, and it's important for us to remember to invest a lot of our energy in improving the technology of the heart.
지당 아주 성원의 이념도 좋아 고급 방법 중요하다. 저분이 총총 중요하다. 이번에 전동 아주 생각 나로리아 핀수 셈다 니버차리아 파르도 주어버 챙게 드브르 챙게 지보 망보여 소도스.
That's so. So even though I'm somewhat happy about the wonderful developments that are happening in the world, still I feel a sense of impediment when it comes to the ability that we have to connect with each other on a heart-to-heart or a mind-to-mind level. I feel that there are some things that are getting in the way.
지당아 두규 미신달이야 저버치두사는 셈리야 닝대 저버차 뭐지 지당 position 인구마부에서 가시 intelligent 제고레스 마도 저랑 연가 어렸을 애들이 용디도 간다야 가다 셈대지 저버차지기스 ben today 인두사나 배 팅지량아 아프가니스탄의 용교디 용계에게 그룹 지도브레
맞아.
안 구성 아주 계속
맞아. My relationship to this concept of heart-to-heart connection or mind-to-mind connection is an interesting one, because as a spiritual leader, I'm always attempting to open my heart to others and offer myself up for heart-to-heart and mind-to-mind connections in a genuine way with other people. But at the same time, I've always been advised that I need to emphasize intelligence over the heart-to-heart connections, because being someone in a position like mine, if I don't rely primarily on intelligence, then something dangerous may happen to me. So it's an interesting paradox at play there. But I had a really striking experience once when a group from Afghanistan came to visit me, and we had a really interesting conversation.
아주 뒤고래야 계속래. berlin buddha 맞아요.
맞아.
부터 지와 또 부터 지와
맞아.
먼저 뒤고래야 계속래. 주두사는 내게 초에 나로랴 지당기 아니 근데 무슬림 출루리비나 아니 믹스에 가서 군자스케요 말봐.
맞아.
저우스케요 말봐.
맞아.
군조디 다 수수 맞지 봐.
No.
아니 남배기 아니 수수 주베 다 가르쳐래 덤바질이야 대구치기 알아 또 이미네 지체비나 아니 딩아 수익이 다 상기 군저도야디 아주 디 자민롱마디 강하지 부주와
No.
가서 berlin 가서 월스 맞지
Mhm.
대는시 전대 또월 때네 지지랑 아주 핀주 무슬림당 다나시 남부 핀주 원내전에 지기지 세부 통하지리야 다디 부단도 강한도 챘네 뒤도월 때네 세부 통하지 저와요레스
맞아.
근데 셰빈스
Mhm.
드린도 상에 섬리야 그도 이미네 아주 셈기 셈리야 이제차디 개치슈디 아니 튠초 positive
맞아.
근데 토하는 아주 저와야당 셈리야 지리야 아니 가수에 토지자의 개치시라의 성도스
That's all. Mhm. So we ended up talking about the Bamiyan Buddhas, which, as you know, were destroyed some years ago in Afghanistan. But the basis of our conversation was a different approach to spirituality on the part of the Muslim and Buddhist traditions. Of course, in Muslim, because of the teachings around the concept of idolatry, you don't find as many physical representations of divinity or of spiritual liberation as you do in the Buddhist tradition, where, of course, there are many statues of the Buddha that are highly revered. So we were talking about the differences between the traditions and what many people perceived as the tragedy of the destruction of the Bamiyan Buddhas. But I offered the suggestion that perhaps we could look at this in a positive way. What we saw in the destruction of the Bamiyan Buddhas was the depletion of matter some solid substance falling down and disintegrating, maybe we could look at that to be more similar to the falling of the Berlin Wall, where a divide that had kept two types of people apart had collapsed and opened up a door for further communication. So I think that in this way, it's always possible for us to derive something positive that can help us understand one another better.
Today in Lusana, and Mazu draw me, yeah, and it is some Jew, Namju, Mazu Ras, Chikashu, Mubu, Yagan, Gida, Kashu, the Zambulin Deliabe, Kashu, Kurda, Jibumimba, Mazuji, Detan, Yeve, Maumba Sidang, and then draw Tamzilia, Gunyumgi, and then Kashu, that Zambulin Dream to Yag, Bezuchawati, as the Miss Samju Jenki.
So, with regard to the development that we've been talking about here at this conference, I really feel that the development that we make shouldn't create a further burden for us as human beings, but should be used to improve our fundamental lifestyle of how we live in the world.
Bena design gego mobile bena jagan of Ginande, but should I guess and do order? Should I have orders? That you been answer some time where the Yaji sympathy, Suegi, Archer or Sana, so that natural resources are, but that day, Mambuchi Pigeon to Yavati. Then do Sane, Azu Zawa, Porni, Zemolia, and in Julia Mabchi. That regime beating. The need to sign Azu the sincere motivations are. That day, some number gone, as you need you cashet, as you sing your mare. Even need you cashet, she be now, as you told her, Delia, Tonama Jebe, needs you stammer Chadi, Benakasan, Bena Kaswe, that's the only Tolia, Pumia Manguchi, Kaswe, Gangi, the Tunga, Neta Manguchina, Cadavity, me Mangu shingy or the Imbine. Telia, Lansam Namda, Gun and Lane, G. Karsue, Sosu ba, Donia, Chonji, Rangi, Kurlana, G. The day came Mav. The name to start the American Zentene, and Chorgin and Zoblindi, Yagan to Yordi, Chorgine, and Zawati, Karsueta, Meva, Zawat Tushi do Yabdi. They do stand the Lagunio maybe needs to chat yours, balance maybe. Of course, I rejoice in the development and the growth and the rise of the noble land of India, the great country of India. But at the same time, I think, as some of us have acknowledged, we need to be aware that some aspects of this rise are coming at the cost of the very ground on which we stand. So as we are climbing the tree, some of the things that we're doing in order to climb the tree are actually undermining the tree's very root. And so what I think it comes down to is a question of not only having information of what's going on, but paying attention to that and letting that shift our motivation to become more sincere and genuinely positive. We have heard this week about the horrible sufferings, for example, that so many women of the world are enduring day to day. We have that information, but what often happens to us is that we don't really choose to pay attention to it. We don't really choose to allow that to cause there to be a shift in our heart. So I think the way forward for the world, one that will bring the path of outer development in harmony with the real root of happiness, is that we allow the information that we have to really make a change in our heart. Happiness, digi saadi, 아주 야첨부 benede 가르쳐 모르지 부르체 안다나 감부지 부르체 차견야 부르지 여비나 and happiness 요야 돼 가라 하셔야 so the digi 자와디 아주지 랑기 셈 셈리아 아니 가르쳐지 sincere motivation 되지 다 간다 다데 에너지 나와 가르는 게 여비네 들량 아주 에너지 가르쳐 띵사별거네 좋아래야다 아니 딜리아 가수지 셈냠을 좋아하디 개춤시라차디 알아성도스.
So I think this sincere motivation is very important for our future well-being, our deep sense of well-being as humans. And I think that means sinking in to whatever it is you're doing now. Whatever work you're trying to do now to benefit the world, sink into that. Get a full taste of that.
Today, you said that you must have shared as the TED conference, so the Narolian as you are don't have a buchin yards. Other Kashi as you are Tamadizolea, not pay attention, gay or matters. As you could do in the digis at be chamburuji down be impressive. Today, the Buchi, Konaro Shadi orders. When I shall be Mina, and it digide. So
since we've been here this week, we've taken millions of breaths collectively, and perhaps we haven't witnessed any course changes happening in our lives. We often miss the very subtle changes, and I think that sometimes we develop grand concepts of what happiness might look like for us. But that if we pay attention, we can see that there are little symbols of happiness in every breath that we take.
And Danashin, then you had the Sanglo when a Gasrage, Lassam year debatan, Chamsi year debatan. Danashin, and the Shiraki, Jishin, and the Namju Chipu, the Ganga Pay, or the need to sang Asu, that Jig, Susugi, Tolia, the Gasrage, gave us some book on a Dindachi, Lado, but Gasru that the end of the Chinese, some much Lado Lambati. As you Zambulinda, Mount Be Chedo, and Sosu Lige Pune, Andarji, Sosugi, and a Chambata Zawati, and Mutuality, Zambulinia, Chisipa, Netway, and a Kashu Narona.
So, every one of you who has come here is so talented, and you have so much to offer to the world. I think it would be a good note to conclude on then, to just take a moment to appreciate how fortunate we are to have come together in this way and exchanged ideas, and really form a strong aspiration and energy within ourselves that we will take the good that has come from this conference, the momentum, the positivity, and we will spread that and plant it in all of the corners of the world.
And Taride, Lakshmi, Azu, Kongi, Kaswe, Shirak, Bezu, and Dea, get out. Just a Shirak Gaucho, Cousin Tabu, there's young, and Lude Shamido, somebody bought shop, and Miss Karankar, some of my Karas. Tomorrow is my talk. Jazza. There's like Jazza, Kong Shinabezu, Shabdi, Shirak Gaucho, and the and some of the Kongi, getting the Chazang in Tawan to Jana Shines.
Lakshmi has worked incredibly hard, even in inviting me, let alone everything else that she has done to make this happen. And I was somewhat resistant at times, and I was also very nervous throughout this week. I was feeling under the weather and dizzy and so forth, and people would ask me why. I would tell them it's because I have to talk tomorrow. So Lakshmi had to put up with me through all of that, but I very much appreciate the opportunity she's given me to be here.
And
Thank you. To you, everyone, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.